Taylor Swift started a war with Ticketmaster in 2022, and the entire world cheered. She won. A federal jury confirmed it 2 weeks ago. And now, the music industry is blaming her for winning. Yesterday, 20 hours ago, one of the most respected music industry publications on the planet published an article with a headline that has set the internet on fire. 3 words. Blame Taylor Swift. Not blame Ticketmaster. Not blame Live Nation. Not blame the greedy executives who built a monopoly over live music and squeezed billions from fans for decades. Blame Taylor Swift. The argument is that the Eras Tour, Taylor's own record-breaking concert run, proved that fans will pay anything to see the artist they love, and that this proof of concept is now the ceiling that every future concert ticket will be priced against. In other words, Taylor Swift helped destroy the monopoly that was overcharging fans. And in doing so, she may have permanently raised the price of every concert ticket sold by every artist for the rest of time. This is the most controversial Taylor Swift story of the year. And it is happening right now. Today we are going through every layer of it. The 2022 disaster that started everything, the federal verdict that changed history, the argument that the victory is hollow, and the one number buried inside the story that nobody's talking about yet. Let us start at the beginning, because to understand what happened on April 15, 2026, you have to go back to November 15, 2022. That is the date Taylor Swift's Eras Tour presale went live on Ticketmaster. And within hours, it became one of the most chaotic events in the history of the internet. 14 million people tried to access the presale simultaneously. Ticketmaster's systems collapsed. Verified fans who had waited months, who had signed up, who had done everything they were told to do, found themselves locked out. Queue numbers jumped erratically. People who had been in line for 8 hours were suddenly back at position 90,000. Error messages appeared and disappeared. The presale sold out before millions of fans even had a chance to attempt a purchase. And then the resale market exploded. Tickets that had been allocated at face value of hundreds of dollars were appearing on secondary markets for thousands. Some floor seats in major markets were listed at over $25,000. Taylor Swift responded directly and publicly. She told the world that she had been assured by Ticketmaster that they could handle the volume. She had asked the hard questions. She had been given answers she now knew were not accurate. She said she was as frustrated as everyone else. And she did not hide the fact that she was furious. The reaction from the American political system was immediate and extraordinary. Within days, members of Congress from both parties were calling for investigations. Senator Amy Klobuchar, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Competition Policy, Antitrust, and Consumer Rights, convened a hearing specifically about the Ticketmaster situation. Representative David Cicilline, chair of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust, called publicly for the breakup of Live Nation and Ticketmaster. The White House was asked about it at a press briefing. The Department of Justice confirmed it had an existing antitrust investigation into Live Nation. And Pitchfork, surveying all of this, asked the question that became the defining frame for the entire story. Is there any other artist who could force urgency into the federal investigation of a music industry monopoly just by going on tour? The answer, obviously, was no. It took Taylor Swift's fans being locked out of a pre-sale to make a 40-year-old monopoly problem the most urgent political issue in Washington for a news cycle. That is power. And it was the beginning of a 4-year legal process that concluded 2 weeks ago with a federal jury delivering a verdict that the music industry has been anticipating since the hearings began. On April 15, 2026, a federal jury in New York found that Live Nation Entertainment, the parent company of Ticketmaster, was liable on antitrust claims brought by a coalition of American states. The jury concluded that Live Nation held an illegal monopoly over the live events industry. That this monopoly was not accidental. That it was constructed deliberately through exclusive venue contracts, retaliatory practices against competitors, and the vertical integration of ticketing, promotion, and venue operations into a single entity that functioned as a gatekeeper over every meaningful point of the live music experience. The California Attorney General Rob Bonta called it a historic and resounding victory for artists, fans, and the venues that support them. The verdict found that Live Nation's conduct caused concertgoers in 22 states to overpay by $1.72 per ticket. Live Nation estimated total damages at below $150 million, though legal standards require courts to triple antitrust damages, potentially pushing the figure above $450 million. The verdict does not immediately break up Live Nation and Ticketmaster. That question, whether the companies must be structurally separated, moves to a remedies phase. But the illegal monopoly finding is now a matter of federal legal record. The thing that fans, artists, independent promoters, and competing platforms have been saying for decades has been confirmed by 12 jurors in New York. Live Nation broke the law. Taylor Swift's 2022 pre-sale disaster was a symptom of an illegal system. And then, 20 hours ago, Pollstar published their response to the verdict. And it is the article that has ignited more controversy in the last 24 hours than the verdict itself. Pollstar is not a tabloid. It is one of the most respected and authoritative publications in the live music industry. When Pollstar says something about the concert business, executives listen. And what Pollstar said in this article is both analytically interesting and genuinely inflammatory. The headline is why concert ticket prices won't drop if Live Nation and Ticketmaster are split up. And the argument they make is this: even if Live Nation is broken up, even if Ticketmaster loses its monopoly, even if the entire infrastructure of the live events business is restructured, ticket prices will not go down. And the reason they give, buried inside the piece but impossible to miss once you see it, is Taylor Swift. They write, blame Taylor Swift. Not in a malicious way. In an economic way. Their argument is that the Eras Tour, which grossed $2.1 billion, which set the all-time revenue record for any tour in music history, proved to the entire live events industry that fans will pay essentially unlimited amounts of money to attend a concert by an artist they love. That the demand exists at price points nobody had previously attempted to charge. That the Eras Tour was, as Pollstar puts it, proof of concept that pop artists could sell out stadiums repeatedly at prices the market had never tested before. And that every promoter, every venue, every artist manager saw those numbers and adjusted their expectations accordingly. The Eras Tour did not just break records. According to this argument, it broke the ceiling on what concert tickets cost forever. This is where the internet is currently having its loudest argument, and both sides of it deserve to be heard fully. The first side, the one defending Taylor Swift, makes a straightforward point. Ticketmaster's monopoly was already overcharging fans for decades before Taylor Swift arrived. The service fees, the dynamic pricing, the secondary market manipulation, the exclusive venue contracts that eliminated competition. None of that was Taylor Swift's creation. She was a victim of the same system every artist and every fan operated within. And when she pushed back publicly in 2022, she catalyzed a legal and political response that ended in a federal conviction. Blaming her for the fact that fans will pay high prices to see great live performances is the same as blaming the most popular restaurant in town for the fact that dining out is expensive. The price of live music is high because Ticketmaster engineered a system that extracted maximum fees at every point of the transaction. That is the story. Taylor Swift is not the story. The second side, the economic argument Pollstar is making, is harder to dismiss than it sounds. If you are a promoter deciding how to price tickets for a stadium tour in 2026, you are making those decisions in a world where the Eras Tour existed. Where fans bought tickets for 3, 4, 5 times face value on secondary markets because they would rather pay any price than miss the show. Where Taylor Swift's tour demonstrated that the demand curve for a sufficiently beloved artist is essentially vertical at the relevant price points. The Eras Tour did not create Ticketmaster's monopoly, but it may have permanently rewritten the industry's understanding of what fans will pay. And that understanding does not disappear if Ticketmaster is broken up. Let us talk about what the remedies phase of this trial actually means for real fans in the real world, because the verdict itself does not change anything yet. Live Nation appealed immediately. The penalty phase will determine what, if anything, is required to change structurally. One possibility is that Ticketmaster is spun off from Live Nation entirely, forcing the two companies to operate independently and in genuine competition with each other. Another possibility is behavioral remedies, ending exclusive venue contracts, capping service fees, opening Live Nation venues to competing ticketing platforms like SeatGeek and AXS. NPR spoke to Thales Teixeira, a professor at UC San Diego's Rady School of Management, who said the likely outcome is more complicated because there are so many parties involved who might want different things out of a potential settlement. He said he does not think the outcome of this case will lower ticket prices in the long term. He noted that Live Nation can make up any lost fees in other ways. For instance, by upping the cost of a parking spot at one of the many venues it controls. And he added that American consumers have already gotten used to the high cost of concert tickets. The psychological baseline has shifted. Whether Ticketmaster is broken up or not, fans already expect to pay what they are currently paying. And artists' managers already expect to price what they are currently pricing. Here is the detail that nobody is reporting in the context of this verdict that may be the most important number in the entire story. 2 hackers named Tyrone Rose and Shamara Simmons were arrested in March 2025 for stealing and reselling over 900 Eras Tour concert tickets. They worked through a third-party contractor for StubHub operating in Kingston, Jamaica. They intercepted already sold ticket URLs and relist them on StubHub from June 2022 to July 2023. Earning $635,000 in illegal profits off Taylor Swift's own fan base. Simmons passed away before sentencing. In October 2025, Rose pleaded guilty to grand larceny. He is awaiting sentencing. These 2 people stole from Swifties. They profited from the same ecosystem that Ticketmaster created. An ecosystem where ticket scarcity and secondary market chaos were so normalized that nobody noticed 2 StubHub employees systematically intercepting URLs and selling them back to fans at inflated prices for over a year. This is what the monopoly actually produced. Not just high fees. An environment where crime was both possible and profitable because the entire market was already so distorted that the distortion became invisible. That is what the federal jury confirmed was illegal. And that is what the remedy phase needs to actually address. Let us bring this back to Taylor Swift's direct role in all of it, because her position in this story is genuinely unusual. She is simultaneously the person whose fans' suffering created the political pressure that led to the conviction, the person whose tour's commercial success is now being used as the explanation for why the conviction may not change prices, and the person who is currently preparing to get married in 10 weeks, release debut Taylor's version in October, and headline whatever comes next in a live music environment that she herself permanently altered. She has not commented on the verdict. She has not commented on the Pollstar article. She said almost nothing publicly about Ticketmaster after her initial 2022 statement, choosing to let the legal and political process run its course rather than continuing to amplify the story with her own voice. Some fans have criticized this silence, arguing that with her platform and her cultural leverage, she should be more vocal about the ongoing remedies fight and what kind of structural relief she wants to see for fans. Others argue that she already did her part in 2022, that the statement she made then was more than most artists would have risked, and that the continuing legal process does not require her to perform ongoing outrage to be meaningful. But here is what is true regardless of where you land on the Pollstar argument or the question of Taylor's ongoing responsibility. The federal jury that delivered the April 15th verdict was not speculating about whether Ticketmaster had a monopoly. They were not theorizing about consumer harm. They heard evidence from both sides for weeks and returned a verdict. The companies that sold fans fraudulent queue positions, that crashed systems under foreseeable load, that used exclusive contracts to lock competitors out of venues, that enabled a secondary market where criminal enterprises could steal and resell tickets for 18 months without detection. Those companies have now been found to have broken the law. That is not a small thing. It is the thing Taylor Swift's fans demanded when they could not get into a pre-sale in 2022. They did not just want her to be angry. They wanted the system that had hurt them to be held accountable. And 4 years later, it has been. The verdict exists. The record of liability is established. Whatever happens in the remedies phase, whatever Pollstar argues about prices, whatever the long-term economics of the live music industry turn out to be, the jury has spoken. Drop a comment below. Do you agree with Pollstar that the Eras Tour permanently raised concert prices? Or is that argument just a convenient way to shift blame from Ticketmaster to the most famous woman in the world? And do you think Taylor should be speaking publicly about the remedies phase right now? Subscribe and hit the bell. This story is just getting started.